Water deluge developments at Massey's, Raptors on the loose at Sanchez, the final Star Factory outline at the build site, and a brand new land development at the launch site. Welcome to episode 39 of Starbase Flyover Update. In this episode we'll cover last week's Starbase development from Friday the 5th of April through to the 12th of April. My name is Jeff A, so let's buckle up and enjoy the latest flight from 10,500 feet. Before we dive in, let's take a quick look at a labelled map from Procky to get you orientated. Starting, as always, at the flame trench area, we can see significant progress has been made since the last flyover, with excavation work at the top of the trench with a water pipe under construction that will run to the bottom of the trench to supply water to the flame bucket during static fire testing. This smaller pipe has been assembled and will run parallel to the larger pipe. In this enhanced image, we can see pipework has also been laid down under the flamey end of the trench. Nearby, we can see that two of the three bucket sections, the main bucket support and one of the triangular structural supports, have been moved next to the flame trench. Shifting to the water storage tank farm, we can see a new white tank has been installed at the top left. A current working theory is that this new tank is for liquid nitrogen storage, and a pump at its base will push the liquid nitrogen through these smaller tanks, which could in fact be heat exchangers to vaporise the nitrogen, which in turn be directed into these large water storage tanks through these openings on top. These large black pipes will feed water from the closest water storage tank through the heat exchangers. Special thanks to one of our regular Patreon members, for figuring this one out. If you too think you'd enjoy adding to the conversation, please do consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get a link to our Discord server to join in these highly informative discussions, as well as high-res images on the day of the flyover. Moving to the static fire stand, we can see that 6 resting brackets have been installed that help support the ship's weight. The QD stand seen last week has received its QD plate, and some piping, including the main flexible supply lines and railings around its perimeter. The 2 risers that the QD assembly will rest on have been stood up and staged nearby. At the bucket area, we can see fabrication work is continuing on the structural supports for the back of the flame bucket. To round out the flame trench hardware, the movable platform has had rebar added, with what appears to be extra rebar on the 2 sides that the SPMTs will drive on. Over at the methane tank farm, the LOX and LN2 lines have had these corner sections installed, and pipe racks now extend over to the trench. Also, concrete has been laid near the cryo vaults. Moving to the structural test pad, we can see significant progress has been made with the stand receiving another leg and a support beam. The smaller inner ring that will become the base has had no visible changes, and the top cap has been painted with an undercoat. That's all for Massey's, on to Sanchez. Thanks once again to Procky for supplying this labelled map. Looking first to the far end of the site at the ground fabrication building, along the right side, the hydraulic actuator seen recently, well, it's been sent to the launch site. More on that later. Just across the main entrance road, we see 12 of the OLM clamp arm constraint linkages. Moving over to the ring assembly area, the booster transport stand remains visibly the same. The 2 ship work stand lift platforms also appear to have little progress. The booster cap ring has seen the addition of its centre cladding with the wedge-shaped pieces for the remaining surface staged alongside. Though installed during last week's flyover, the 3 clamp receivers are clearly visible in the overhead image. The station adjacent has seen preparations for a new structure to take shape. 10 stands have been placed in a circle with survey equipment in the middle, likely to position and level these stands for construction. The tower work area looks all quiet this week. Nearby, we can see that one of the Tesla megapacks has been removed and set down, here. Projects in and around the power generation facility also appear to be awaiting further work. Following B11 movements, we see that the booster transport stand has returned to the rocket garden for storage. Nearby, Ship 26 is getting a little more attention with crews and lift near the added stringers. Booster 4's aft section remains, though we can see it has fewer Raptors installed, with 13 of them stored across the road. The scrapyard and commodities area are largely the same as last week. We do see some of the ship stand door panels shuffled around. They have new panels fitted, with protective covers until they are installed in Megabay 2. The white frame structure seen here for many weeks finally made its way to Megabay 2 for robot welder installation. Finally, at the parking garage, we see that the centre footings have been completed. Along the Stargate side, we see a rebar cage being constructed for the middle of the wall to be placed in the excavated trench beneath. The corners on this side of the building are distinctly different from the other corners, with them being open for potential staircases, elevators and equipment. In this image, we also see that the hot stage ring, presumably for Booster 11, remains in the shadow of the high bay. With all of that, let's move on to the build site. Please refer to Procky's map as we go over this week's changes. Starting as usual with Mega Bay 2, we see in this artificially brightened shot that legs for a ship engine workstand have appeared in this location. One might be tempted to think that this would be a third ship workstand under construction, until we notice that the first ship workstand, previously located in the front of Mega Bay 2, has been deconstructed. It's possible SpaceX now wants to have two ship workstands arranged in a row at the back of the bay next to the welding turntable. Unseen in this photo is Ship 30, currently receiving its engines in the centre back part of the bay. Now looking to the edge of the bay's exit, framework was installed for the roll-down door to create an airtight seal when the door is closed. Moving on to Mega Bay 1, Booster 14 is in two halves at either side of the front of the bay ahead of stacking. Atop the booster workstands in the back sits Booster 12, 13 and 11. Sliding left to the high bay, we see Ship 29 in the front and Ship 31 in the rear. We see that Ship 29 is still missing quite a few tiles along its weld seams, where it looks like tile endurance testing using a suction cup has been performed in a process similar to Ship 28. Now moving on to the massive Star Factory, where we'll start by looking at the front cladding. As of the writing of this script, workers have completely finished the installation of angled cladding forming the outline of where the glass will be installed. The glass facade will taper upwards and allow Starship watchers from Highway 4 a clear view of the tank sections within the building, especially at night. Roofing installation has also progressed further over to the angled nose cone exit hallway section of the factory. Looking at the normal height rows of Star Factory, which will be responsible for the bulk of Starship production, steel columns continue to be expanded in the direction of the bays, stopping just short of the doorway for the nose cone hallway. A doorway for the normal height section can be seen here. It's worth noting that bridge crane girders are not being installed in the corridor right up against the wall facing the bays. This wider transport corridor will be used instead of the transport of ring sections from corridor to corridor within the factory. We can see the bridge cranes themselves over here through the steel beams. One place where there also likely won't be bridge cranes is this section to the right of Mega Bay 2, where we see footings for the main wall stop just short of colliding with the bay before tapering inwards. Meanwhile, steel columns for the very last remaining row have been installed right up against the cladding of the original Star Factory building. After a whole year of expansion, we've finally come full circle, and in just a few short months, we can look forward to the entire section being weatherproofed and readied for full-scale mass production of starships in the estimated 1 million square foot facility. There's more excavation behind the factory near the transformers. This work area remains a mystery, so we'll have to keep an eye on developments here. Over at the new office complex, framing continues, as well as sections for the steel sheets for the concrete flooring being put in place. The section further away from Highway 4 is getting the final footings formed up and should soon receive its steel framework. Over the last couple of weeks, the area near the hovercraft landing pad has been slowly getting cleared, including the iconic volleyball court. This work is in preparation of a 16,000 square foot recreation centre, according to recent documents from the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. Finally, before moving on to the launch site, let's check out the progress at the ever-expanding wall to the rear of the village. An additional filing was submitted for a new restaurant to be built on St. Jude Street, which may be one of these vacant lots along the wall. Let's take a moment to check the labelled map of the launch site thanks to Procky. Starting at the orbital launch pad expansion, we see that the approvals to develop the small strip of wetlands has been granted, as that land has initial grading and an excavator is breaking up the concrete edging. Deliveries of dirt that has been spread over the wick field continues. Not much has been seen outside of the restroom facility near the Deluge Farm in recent weeks, but this week we see that the crews are adding some utilities to the left side. Rebar has been added to fill in areas cleared for construction. At suborbital pad B, crews have dug up some of the concrete directly under the pad following the recent static fires. The protective cap for the QD plate is sitting face up in the stand, suggesting some work has been done with the QD. On the other side of the perimeter wall to Highway 4, crews are continuing to set forms to lay a concrete slope between the wall and the road. Now moving down to the middle of the site and adjacent to the end of the tank protection wall, another square of concrete has been replaced. Over to the hot dog tank farm and we see large pipe assemblies and some valves and crates. This hardware is likely for the lock side of the new tanks, and most of the pipe has likely been installed on the stands along the front of the farm. In front of the last 5 tanks that will be used for locks, rapid progress is seen with pipework connecting the tanks to the main runs. It's believed that the 2 vertical tanks and vaporizers near the D2 entrance are for supplying gaseous oxygen to backfill the LOX hot dog tanks during propellant loading. Gaseous nitrogen for backfilling the liquid nitrogen tanks is coming from the fluids bunker via this newly installed pipe that makes its way around this route. Integration of the new hot dog tanks is almost finished, with venting seen from the first 4 tanks that are for LN2. Looking further along the pipework on the Highway 4 side, we can see where the LN2 is being connected to both the methane side and a little further along to the LOX side of the orbital tank farm. This LN2 will be mostly used to chill the hippos, as all the initial crowd testing is conducted at the Massey's test facility now. A little further along, we can see crews have cut open the main LOX delivery pipe to install a nearby T-piece to tie in with the new LOX tanks. More of the larger diameter LOX piping can also be seen staged nearby. As of the time of this image, the OTF is unable to supply a full stack with LOX or liquid methane until these 3 new connections are completed and commissioned. Some of the old vertical tanks still contain commodities and all the support systems are running. It appears that both the old and new tanks will be operational together. On April 19th, the scrapping of additional vertical tanks commenced, with the shell of GSC-7 being rigged for removal in the early morning hours. Due to the recent addition of the support beams, the shell can't be lifted completely, so the stringer side is only being partially removed during the first lift to counterbalance the exoskeleton. The rear lower section that will be left behind is still bolted to the ground and will be lifted separately. Along the highway between Gate D2 and the tank farm offload parking, a new high concrete wall is being erected. Looking to the original orbital tank farm space, we see continued work on the 3 pill tanks and the 2 vertical tanks with further pipework installed. Also, the pill tanks have gained some protective armour. At the end of the tank farm berm, crews have begun to reinforce the end with a concrete retaining wall placed on the footing seen in last week's flyover, as well as continuing the sloped face to the end. We finish our tour of the launch site at Orbital Pad A. Along the berm wall, we see the 8 remaining constraint links that total 20, with the other 12 seen at Sanchez. In this location, we see 20 additional items on pallets, likely the load pins on the clamp arm assemblies. The OLM now is very active once again. Removal and subsequent installation of new linkage assemblies appears to be part of robustness upgrades for the next flight. The BQD hood that protects the QD plate has also been removed, with a replacement being installed on April 13th that includes some improvements to the design and shape. The chopsticks have seen a lot of activity in recent weeks. This week is no different. The metal grating walkways have been reinstalled for crew access after these were either blasted away during IFT3 or removed in the days following out of caution in case the remaining panels would fall and injure crew. We close out this week's episode with the replacement of the left chopstick actuator, with the hardware seen next to the ground fabrication building in Sanchez that at one point was speculated to be a replacement for the SQD arm. In this image, we see a crane preparing to lift the new actuator into place, with the old one sitting in the shadows next to the tower. Well, that's it for episode 39 of Starbase Flyover Update. Thank you for choosing to fly with RGV aerial photography, and I hope you all enjoyed the flight. If you liked what you saw today, please subscribe for more episodes and content so you don't miss out on the new videos each week. Take care, and we'll see you next week.